Hi guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Sally Darr. That is a double name. Let's just get that out of the way. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I vlog my life. I read in my vlogs, but I don't do like strictly book videos. I've done a TBR video before. It wasn't my most popular video ever, but I feel like those of you who did watch it really appreciated it, and I thought maybe you would appreciate this one as well. I feel like most of you guys know how this kind of video works. I am basically going to go through every single book I read in 2024. I am going to put it in a ranking system that I have created. I have created every single tier, reflect on what I thought about it at the time, what I think about it now, and we are going to put it in its correct level on the tier list. Before we go any further, I'm going to show you guys my stats on my Goodreads. A lot of people do this before they start ranking all of their books. I use Goodreads. That is my book logging app of choice, even though I know it's pretty, antiquated. They do need to update some things. It really has just been around for forever. I think I've had it since I was in high school, so I'm just used to it. I know there's better ones out there that let you do half stars, but it's just habit. It's just habit. In 2024, I read 45 books. I read 16,150 pages. My shortest book was I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel. That was 207 pages. My longest book was Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, 640 pages. Average book length is 358 pages. Most shelved book is It Ends With Us. Least shelved is 100 Other Girls. Average rating for 2024, 3.7 stars. Highest rated on Goodreads is Fourth Wing. My first book that I reviewed in 2024 was The 7-Year Slip. 2024 was the most I've ever read in my entire life, so I'm very proud of reading 45 books. I'm someone who's always loved reading, but sometimes I go a year and I read like 2 books, and then sometimes, I'll read 10 books, but 45 is definitely the most I've ever read. My goal at the beginning of 2024, I feel like was something like 20 books or something, and I just kept bumping it up as I kept reaching the goal. It was 20, and then I bumped it up to 25, and then 30, and then I bumped it up to 40. In 2025, I would like to read a little bit more than 45. I don't really know what my goal is going to be yet, but I would love to surpass what I did in 2024. I feel like that would be great. So even if it's 46, that's awesome. I feel like maybe I could land around 50 to 60. I feel like it's feasible. If I did 60 books, that would be 5 books a month. I haven't entered my goal on Goodreads for 2025 yet. We'll see what we do. I'm trying to be very realistic to how much I'll actually read. I don't want to push it because reading is meant to be enjoyable. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to explain every single level to you guys. I named these the other night, so I'm trying to remember what I was thinking when I was naming all of these different levels. Starting with the bottom level is memoir. I've read a few memoirs this year, and I'm not going to include them in the ranking. A lot of people don't rate memoirs because it feels like you're actually rating and ranking how interesting someone's life is, and so I'm just going to put all of the memoirs in that level. Next level is should have DNF'd. These are books that I should have stopped, should have just quit while I was ahead. Next level I have called We Were Rooting For You. This level is for books that I just felt let down by. I expected them to be good. I did not expect them to be great. I didn't think that they would be a 4-star, a 5-star. I didn't think they would completely blow me out of the water. I just expected them to be a solid 3 stars, nothing crazy, but they fell a little bit flat. Next level is good. I'm not gonna go out of my way to recommend it, but if you're interested and you wanna read it, go for it. You're more than good, but you could have been great. This is a book that I expected to be, 4, 5 stars, and I was really upset by. I had a lot of hope, and it just did not deliver. Next level is great. I would recommend it. Does it speak to my soul? No. Obsessed with your vibe. This is a book that I just really respect. I love what they're doing. I'm obsessed with its vibe, and I am going to recommend this to anyone that will listen. And the level above that is gonna go ahead and be God tier. Now, this doesn't need much explanation. It speaks to my soul. It speaks to who I am as a person. I want to own multiple copies of it. I wouldn't shut up about it for weeks. Those are all of the levels. We are going to start adding all of the books in. We are going to go in order of how I read the books. So starting with The 7-Year Slip, that is book number 1 of 2024, going all the way to the very last book, 7-Year Slip. I feel like when I read it, I was really impressed by it because if you guys are familiar with my tastes and my likes and dislikes, it takes a lot for me to be really obsessed with a romance book. Most romances actually tend to be a 3-star book for me. I think I just prefer romance storylines in more of a fiction book, not just a straight up romance book, if that makes sense. Sometimes it can just teeter on the edge of being too much, being too cheesy, being too cringe for me. It takes a special kind of book to not make me feel that way. I feel like out of all of the romance books that I read this year, this one was definitely up there, and I did go on to read a different Ashley Poston book later. Obviously, I liked it enough to try something else that she wrote. I'm gonna put great, okay, because she used magical realism. I thought it was really fun. Tom Lake is definitely one of the top 2. Obsessed with Your Vibe or God tier. I honestly, this is hard. I'm gonna feel silly if I don't put it in God tier because at the time I was addicted to it, and I am still addicted to it. I do think it's such a good book. I'm gonna put it in God tier, okay? I loved the book. I love the cover of the book. The audiobook is read by Meryl Streep. Like, the vibes are there. It made me want to move on to a farm. So, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I feel like a lot of people do not like this book. This book is very polarizing, actually, which I did not know that when I was reading it. Like, I thought everyone loved this book, and then I found out that a lot of people like cannot stand this book because it's very slow to start, which I understand. It feels like there's like so much buildup, or there's so much stuff you have to get through that maybe to some people feels unnecessary. I ate up every single chapter of this book. I love this book. This is going in God tier. Like, I rep this book very, very hard. Hope it's made into a movie one day. I'm going to be the first one to buy a ticket to that movie. The Song of Achilles. This is a book that a lot of people talked about on TikTok. Like, this is one of the bigger TikTok books. A lot of books just like get that label because they're just like thrown around in so many TikTok videos. I purely read this one because I saw the cover so many times and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this one out. I didn't think it was bad, but I also like did not see the hype. I expected more from it. It's not my favorite, okay? I do think it's a solid, good book. I could put it in the good row, but also I just felt like it was hyped up so much. Like, I was rooting for it. I felt like I expected more from it. So I think I'm gonna put it in the we were rooting for you row. I feel awful doing that, but you know, it is what it is. Next book is 100 Other Girls, and I should have DNF'd it, okay? It was very girl boss, millennial, trying to be very hip. There were just like a lot of cringy phrases. I don't know. Girl boss is the best way I know how to explain it. It just, I should have DNF'd. I really don't need to share much on it. Then I read I'm a Fan, which I also did not like, and I also should have DNF'd. So 2 books in a row that I really was not a fan of. I am not a fan of this book. I am so sorry. Should have DNF'd. Next up, we have Love and Other Words. I think this is my favorite romance book to date. Like, this is my favorite romance book of all time. So if that romance book isn't in the God tier row, no romance book will ever make it into the God tier. Next up is The Dead Romantics. This is another Ashley Poston book that I read because I enjoyed The 7-Year Slip. I feel like this one had a really fun premise, but it just like did not deliver. And again, my hopes were pretty high because I had liked The 7-Year Slip. So I think I'm gonna put this in We Were Rooting for You just because I felt like really let down. I just had so much fun with 7-Year Slip. I am still wanting to read Ashley Poston's latest book, which is called A Novel Love Story. I do still want to read that because I love magical realism. Like, it is so fun. Dead Romantics, We Were Rooting for You. Next up is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. That is a memoir. Next up is Lucy Foley, The Guest List. This was my first mystery book in quite some time, and I had so much fun. Like, I didn't realize how much I really liked mystery books, and I went on to read 2 other Lucy Foley books. Maybe if I had read a bunch of mystery and thrillers before this one, and then I read this one, I might not think of this one so highly, but this book was really the book that like made me want to keep reading mystery and thrillers, so it did a lot for me. You know, I owe it a lot. I'm gonna put it in the great column, or I could say Obsessed with Your Vibe, because again, it did give me a lot. It made me want to continue reading mysteries and thrillers, which is not something I ever was doing before. This is my tier ranking video, and I'm completely biased, and I think I'm gonna say Obsessed with Your Vibe. Next up, we have Britney Spears' memoir. That is going to go in the memoir row. Then we have Funny You Should Ask. Ooh, this book was kind of fun. Loved the cover of this book. It was set in LA. This was really fun because I was living in Los Angeles at the time. It's based off of Chris Evans, which is just like funny to keep in mind as you're reading it. I'm gonna put this in the good row. I don't really remember specifics of this book too well, but I know I had a really good time. And hey, if you want to read it, you should read it. Next up, we have The Dutch House by Anne Patchett. Anne Patchett also wrote Tom Lake, which I put in the God tier row. I read this one because I read Tom Lake. I really love Tom Lake. I love the cover of this book, The Dutch House. I think it's such a gorgeous cover, and it was good, but I wasn't obsessed with it, and I thought I might be more obsessed with it, so I think I'm gonna put this in You're More Than Good, but You Could Have Been Great. Next up, we have Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Listen, okay, I have tried. I know a lot of you guys love Emily Henry, okay? I think that she's talented. I just don't think she's for me. Her style of romance books just don't hit with me for some reason. I wish they did. Everybody's obsessed with her. I wish I was obsessed with her, and I keep trying her books. I will continue to try her books, but for me, they're just always good. Like, they're always just a standard 3-star book. I could put this in the We Were Rooting for You column. I might have done that early on when I was trying out Emily Henry books because I feel like they're hyped up so much. But now I just kind of know that for some reason they're just like not my vibe, and that's okay. Everybody has their preferences. So now when I read her books, I know that for me, they're just always going to be a solid good book, nothing crazy. So I'm gonna put Book Lovers in good. Next up, we have Dolly Alderton, Good Material. I feel like how some people feel about Emily Henry is how I feel about Dolly Alderton. Like, Dolly Alderton is my Emily Henry. Like, it doesn't matter what she writes, she's great, and I think she can do no wrong. I will read whatever she puts out. When I saw that Good Material was coming out, I was like, okay, I have to read that immediately. She typically writes from the woman's POV. This is from the man's POV, which I thought was really fun and interesting. I think I like it more when she writes from the woman's POV, but I think that's also just like books in general. I think I like them from the woman's POV. I love this book. I don't think it's my favorite book of Dolly's, but at the same time, I'm obsessed with her and everything that she does. So I'm gonna say I'm obsessed with your vibe. Crying in H Mart is a memoir, so we're gonna add that to the memoir row. The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue, I love. I'm addicted to The Rachel Incident. I rep this book. I will recommend it to anyone who will listen. I thought this book was so good. I didn't even know that Caroline O'Donoghue and Dolly Alderton were friends when I read this. After I found that out, I was like, makes complete fucking sense. Birds of a feather. Okay, these women, I'm obsessed with them. I love what they do. Rachel Incident belongs in God tier, no question. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne, I'm just gonna say good. I had fun. I watched the movie after I finished this book. I had fun watching the movie. I thought it was a little bit longer than it needed to be, I remember. The Hating Game is a book that I just feel like I saw the cover so many times that I was like, you know what? I just need to read that book because I'm sick of seeing the cover and like not actually having read the book. I love a book that you can read and then watch the movie. So, you know, that made it a good experience. I had a good time with it. Next up, we have Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. I had a really good time reading this book. This was actually my first Abby Jimenez book, which I know she has other books that are in the same world as this book. It's kind of like a series, but you don't really need to read one book to understand the next. It's just like the characters exist in the same universe. I do love when authors do that, so I love that she does that. Towards the end, I stopped liking it as much. I feel like there was just like one or two moments that were just like too cheesy for me. I feel like in terms of romance books, this one is like more than good. And I don't know, I feel like it's comparable to The 7-Year Slip, and The 7-Year Slip is in great. Next up, we have Funny Story by Emily Henry. And I think out of all of the Emily Henry books that I've read, this one might be my least favorite. I just felt like the romance between these two characters was so unbelievable. Like I just didn't see the chemistry at all. I just like wasn't buying into the story in the slightest. I don't think I should have DNF'd it because I still, you know, wanted to see where the story was going. I wasn't ever like so angry or annoyed by the book, but I also expected more. This is gonna go in the We Were Rooting For You row. Next up is Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. Very fun book, very good as an audiobook. All around, had a really good time. So I'm gonna put that in great. Next up is Lucy Foley, Paris Apartment. Out of all of the Lucy Foley books that I've read 3. This one is my least favorite, but at the time, this was the second Lucy Foley book that I read, and I really liked the guest list, so I was expecting to like this one more. I think that this is good. Next up, we have Lucy Foley, The Midnight Feast. Out of all the 3 books I've read, this is number 2. Guest list is still number 1. Lucy Foley has like a similar formula to all of her books, and I feel like once you read one, you can kind of like see what the other ones are doing, so I feel like the guest list will always be number 1 in my mind because it was my first exposure to her. The Midnight Feast was better than The Paris Apartment. It still wasn't just like, oh my god, this is so insane. So I think I'm gonna put this in your more than good, but you could have been great, because nothing is just like living up to the guest list in the same way. It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I did read this because I knew the movie was coming out and I wanted to read the book before the movie came out. This was my first Colleen Hoover book ever, my first exposure to her as a writer. Controversy regarding the movie, controversy regarding the book aside, I was locked into this book. I really was, you know, just tearing through the pages. So I will give credit where credit is due. Colleen Hoover did hook me, okay? I completely bought into the story. The book has its issues, okay? No one's gonna deny that, but I was completely locked in. And then I read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover, which is a completely unnecessary sequel. Was it fun seeing the romance between 2 characters that we wanted to see in the first book that we didn't get any of? Yeah, it was fun to see that, but also it was a little bit unnecessary. So I'm just gonna put it in good. I wasn't ever rooting for it. Like, it kind of was what I expected. Like, it just feels like kind of a standard sequel. Talking at Night by Claire Daverly. I was really let down by this one, y'all. Like, a lot of people had told me that I was going to be addicted to this book, and it just did not hit for me, which was really upsetting. Similar vibes to Normal People by Sally Rooney, but just never gonna be Normal People by Sally Rooney. But, you know, I loved what it was trying to do. It just, like, did not do it for me. It was dragging at a lot of points. Didn't have the worst time. I just feel like I was so excited for it, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh, damn, I thought this was gonna be like one of my new favorite books, and it wasn't. I'm gonna say you're more than good, but you could have been great. Next up, we have The Silent Patient. I also thought this book was going to be one of my new favorite books. People love this book, but again, I just think it was too hyped up in my mind. Like, I didn't have a bad time. I thought it was good. I thought the twist was good, but I think I just like thought it was going to be like this crazy experience. It just didn't live up to the hype for me, unfortunately, so I am gonna put this in you're more than good, but you could have been great, because I had a good time. I just wish I didn't have it hyped up to me as much as I did. Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I'm gonna put this in We Were Rooting for You. This book just like fell a little bit flat. I've read In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, which was, you know, a fine book. This one wasn't that good. I think the only reason I really liked it is it's set in West Hollywood, which is where I used to live. So it was fun reading about someone like going to places that I've been to many times before. But if you take that element out of it, I just don't think I would have liked this book at all. I never wanted to DNF it because I did like the element of it being in West Hollywood. I'm gonna put it in We Were Rooting for You. Next up we have Fourth Wing. I mean, Fourth Wing is just gonna go in God tier. It was very fun. I lived up to the hype. Out of all of the books that were hyped up to me in 2024, Fourth Wing is the only book that lived up to that hype. Like that was the one book that people are obsessed with and I was like, valid. 5 stars. 100% 5 stars. That's impressive. Iron Flame, I did not like it as much as Fourth Wing, but I still had a really good time. So I'm gonna say Obsessed with Your Vibe. I am excited for Onyx Storm to come out. Love the series. I'm a fan. I don't know if I'm gonna like the third one as much as the first one. Maybe, you know, maybe. Next up we have Lessons in Chemistry. I loved this book, y'all. I thought it was really sweet. I think I'm gonna put it in Obsessed with Your Vibe. And I think this is a book that you could recommend to just like all kinds of people in your life, like any age. I just thought it was so fun. I thought it was so sweet. I still have not watched the TV show, which I need to do. Big Swiss. I feel like this is another book that's like very polarizing. This was not my favorite book ever, but it was doing something, okay? It had an energy about it. I respect the shit out of this book. I just feel like it was kind of just like off the wall, kind of weird, kind of gross, and a lot of people would be turned off to that, but I kind of just respected it. Like I thought it was kind of interesting. This book does fall into my favorite genre of book, which is girl who does not know what the fuck she's doing. It's my category that I've come up with, girl who doesn't know what she's doing and continues to spiral. If there were a book to embody the tier level of Obsessed with Your Vibe, I think Big Swiss would be the book. Like I'm obsessed with its vibe. Really good, actually. I'm going to put We Were Rooting for You. I was really let down by this book. I was really excited. I love the cover of it. I love the premise of the book. This is another book that's about a girl who doesn't know what she's doing. It got very repetitive. It felt a little bit pointless. Like the plot wasn't moving at all. I was very sad about this book. Never wanted to DNF it. I could have at one point, but I continued. So this is gonna go in We Were Rooting for You. Next up, we have Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This was a solid book. This was a very good mystery. I had such a fun time with this, and I feel like it was pretty quick. I forget how many pages it was, but I feel like it was like 200 something pages. I loved this book. This is gonna go in the great column. Next up, we have Ina Garten. Just know, if I were to rank these memoirs, this one would be my favorite. I love Ina Garten, but it's gonna go in the memoir row. Next up, we have The Housemaid. I also really loved this book. Another good mystery thriller book. I'm gonna put this in great. I could easily put like Never Lie or The Housemaid in the Obsessed with Your Vibe column because I am obsessed with their vibe. I kind of put the guest list in Obsessed with Your Vibe because like that's the book that like kicked off me wanting to read those other books. The Obsessed with Your Vibe row is kind of meant for a book that has just like provided me with something that no other book could provide me with, and it might not be God tier, but I'm addicted to it like in a completely different way. That's the thing with these videos, is that like some of these books I could like go up, go down, and I also like feel bad. Like I don't want to hurt the book's feelings. In my mind, the books have feelings. I'm feeling bad as I continue to add these into the rows. Next book is Yellowface. I had a really good time with Yellowface. I read this one really fast. I think I'm gonna put it in Obsessed with Your Vibe. This is a book that gave me such a pit because this book isn't a mystery or a thriller, but you keep feeling like someone's gonna get caught, and it just put that pit in your stomach, like that feeling that you get when you haven't turned in a paper on time. It gave me a pit in my stomach like a mystery or thriller could never do. I felt so nervous reading this book that I respect the hell out of it because I truly felt on edge the entire time I was reading it. Next up is Verity by Colleen Hoover. They've already casted the movie for it. I think it's Anne Hathaway, Dakota Johnson, and the main guy in Trap, which I always forget his name. I was locked into this book the entire time. I am going to be watching it in theaters whenever it comes out. That's gonna go in the great row. Wellness by Nathan Hill. I am completely addicted to this book. I recommend this to anyone who will listen. I think about it a lot. God tier, no question about it. Next up, we have Remarkably Bright Creatures, another book that was really hyped up to me, and I think it delivered. Like it was very heartwarming. I think there were some things that I was kind of like, it's not hitting exactly for me. It doesn't belong in You're More Than Good, but You Could Have Been Great, because it is undeniably a great book. First Light Wins, I also had a really good time with this book. This one was fun. It was set in the South, specifically Louisiana, which I was loving. And I felt like it was a murder mystery that kind of kept me on my toes. Like I really did not know where it was going. I didn't know who was the person behind certain things. I'm gonna put this in great. Loud by Drew, which is another memoir. Margot's Got Money Troubles. I had such a fun time reading this book. Like I am obsessed with its vibe. Simply obsessed with its vibe. This is a book that really could only have been written in recent years. It's a subject that some people would consider a little bit taboo, and I just respect the author for writing about it. I had such a fun time reading it. Like I undeniably loved it. It wasn't like 5 stars, oh my god, I'm obsessed. Next up is Listen for the Lie. This book is really good as an audiobook because it's about a murder mystery podcast, and so it's really fun to listen to it because it has all the production value of, it sounds like a podcast that you would actually listen to. Kept me on my toes, did not know where it was going at any point. I would say great. Last but not least, the last book that I read in 2024 was Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Again, credit where credit is due. She does know how to kind of hook you into a story. I was really reading it to learn about Rachel. I wanted to know what was going on with Rachel and the main guy. I'm already blanking on his name, even though I literally just finished this book. It was good. Nothing crazy. Okay, y'all, we're done. Some of these could move up, some of them could move down. I'm looking at this list to see if I can like gather anything, if I can like, think of any overarching thoughts of 2024. One thing that I definitely learned in 2024 is that I need to read more mystery and thrillers. A lot of these mystery and thrillers made it into the great row. Would have never thought of myself as someone who like loves mysteries, but clearly like a lot of them made it into the great row. So I do need to read more mysteries in 2025, which I plan on doing. Only 2 books that I should have DNF'd, which I feel like is pretty good. And both of them were back to back. So I feel like I did a good job bouncing back and like not getting too down on myself and just like not reading for months on end after that. Another thing I learned in 2024 is I need to dive into more fantasies because I really liked Fourth Wing. I really liked Iron Flame. I'm gonna read the 3rd book in that series, but I also need to start other fantasy series because I think I like fantasy more than I thought I did. Overall, I loved reading in 2024. I'm excited to continue reading just as much, if not more, in 2025. Like I said in the beginning of this video, this is the most I've read in my entire life. I feel very proud of 2024. I don't plan on becoming a booktuber in 2025, but I do want to talk more about reading in 2025 because I think those of you who do like it appreciate it when I do share what I'm reading or my thoughts on books that I'm reading. I think what I want to do is share my TBR on my Instagram or maybe in a vlog at the beginning of the month, not a fully dedicated TBR video, but telling you guys 5 or 6 books that I have on my radar for the month, and I'm going to try to stick to that. And then at the end of the month, we're going to do a wrap up. So if you guys want to read those books and kind of read along with me, so when I'm talking about the books you guys can discuss it more with me, then maybe we can have something where you guys submit your thoughts on a book or something and I could respond to some of your thoughts. It could be a little bit more podcasty book club discussion based kind of video. I think it could be fun. Let me know your thoughts. You guys can tell me what you think, but just spitballing over here. Leave a comment below if you have anything that you want to see from me in terms of monthly wrap up kind of videos. I am filming this video a little bit later into January, so this month is going to be a little bit wonky. I'm not giving you guys a list of what I plan on reading in January on the 1st, so bear with me, but I'm gonna post my TBR for January right here. So if you guys want to read along with me at the end of this month, we will discuss all of these books. Gonna post the same image on my Instagram, so it's probably been posted there first before this video has come out. Obviously, there's a lot of fires happening in Los Angeles right now, and I feel like the issue with YouTube is that I film something and then things change. So I'm filming this right now. I don't know when this video is going up or what the fires are gonna look like in a few days. It's completely devastating. I know a few people who have been affected by it, who have lost their childhood homes, and it's just really awful to see. So I'm gonna leave a link to donate to the fire department in the description. Thank you for watching this video. I love you guys. I hope you're doing well. And I think with that, this is goodbye. Should I button up this little button? No, I'll leave it. Hi guys.